Move over, papers please. There's a new point-and-click resource management game in town, and this one lets you shake people down for money. Debtors Club sees you take on the role of a tax collector in the 90s, serving under a shady city hall. In this video, we'll be giving a full review of the game and ranking it from decaf to fully caffeinated. This is something we do regularly here at the Indie Brew, so make sure to hit that subscribe button for more indie game content. Without further ado, let's grind this game down and see how it brews. Debtors Club has some pretty interesting story woven in there, and it's one of those games that has multiple different storylines to uncover. You play as a new tax collector and spend each day phoning people about their tax debts. Each case you take on has its own story attached, with the dialogue for each having its own unique flavour. You'll be party to some confidential information that may help with your tax collecting abilities, and is also just interesting if you're a nosy sort of person. Alongside your cases, you'll also have a main storyline that follows the mayor and the goings on in the city itself. This is where you'll get some variety between your playthroughs, as there are choices here that determine just what will happen in the game. Each workday is followed by a story segment that clues you in on what's happening in the city, and this can be impacted by decisions you make throughout your workday too. Did we mention there's also someone sliding mysterious and kind of demanding notes under your door too? Debtors Club has an interesting and funny story that draws you in on both the case level and the overarching story too. The dialogue is written to be witty and adds a whole stack of character, and the different storylines give the game replayability and make for some interesting outcomes. This is a game that weaves story into the gameplay well and has an interesting nostalgic feel. So for story, I'm rating Debtors Club as buzzed. The gameplay of Debtors Club is where we start to get the papers please kind of vibes. Each day you'll select 3 cases and have a monetary goal you need to achieve. Your goal is to get as much of the money owed back as possible, and to do so you'll have some different tools up your sleeve. You'll have 2 different actions you can perform for each case, and you'll have 4 choices for what you can do: talk, threat, bluff, and expired license. Reviewing the case file will present you with a different number for each action, which is the number you need to roll to be successful. Talking will see you use your wit and charm to try and convince the customer to pay up. Threat will see you threaten your customer to pay up. Bluffing will see you make up something to try and put the pressure on. And expired license will bring up details of a license or confidential info that may help them be inclined to pay up. Once you select an action, a number between 1 and 6 will be generated. If that number is higher than the required, you'll be successful. If it's not, you'll need to try again or admit defeat. Having confidential information will give you a bonus point on both the bluff and license option, and if the customer's license is actually expired, selecting either of those options will give you 2 bonus points. Once you've used up your actions, you'll have 3 different collection options. Being successful in your negotiations will unlock the tax collector, who will recover 100% of the monies. Sending a fiscal inspector will collect between 50 to 70%, or you can send the pacifist group, which will see you collect between 20 to 50%. Complete your cases and collect more than the target amount to progress through the game. Each day you'll be given a slip of paper by the mayor with an optional bonus task on it, which can range from not using a specific action to only using pacifists, and will reward you with some cash that gets progressively higher the more you complete. After your shift is over, you'll be able to spend anything you make over your target on upgrades and staffing. Now you're only given a starting amount of tax collectors, fiscal inspectors, and pacifist crews to send out, so you'll need to hire more if you want to be able to use that option to collect your monies. You're also able to purchase upgrades that give you a bonus in some way, whether it's extra points for certain actions or an extra action itself, and these are definitely handy as you progress. Woven into the game are some mini games that are part of the story, and if you do lose a day, you're able to play for your job too, adding an interesting second chance twist. Debtors Club definitely provides some interesting mechanics that are addictive, and the game definitely has a strategic side to it. I did encounter a few bugs when playing where dialogue just wouldn't show up or things wouldn't skip, but generally speaking, it was a pretty smooth game to play. The only downside to the game is that you can get through the 20 levels relatively quickly within the 2-hour kind of range, so there's not a stack of content in each playthrough. However, they have structured the game to be replayed, with a huge range of different storylines to uncover, so it definitely does have a lot of content in there if you look for it. This is a game that is really fun, so for gameplay, I'm rating Debtors Club as buzzed. Debtors Club has a cool, edgy cartoon style that is reminiscent of 90s cartoons in the best possible way. It's colourful and quirky and really brings a lot of personality to the game, while still conveying everything you need to know. The soundtrack is a mood and a half, and I found myself having a bit of a boogie while playing, and it really sets such a fun vibe for the game. The sound effects again nod to 90s cartoons and really bring the game to life while not detracting from the gameplay. Overall, you can tell there's a ton of thought and care that has gone into creating a game with a certain aesthetic, and while it may not be something everyone will enjoy, it definitely is cohesive and I personally loved it. So for design, I'm rating Debtors Club as fully caffeinated. Now, Debtors Club could definitely be compared to games like Papers, Please in the core mechanics, but while there are similarities, Debtors Club definitely is an original game. The integration of the varied storylines gives the game a lot of replayability, and the storylines themselves bring a dark humor that is definitely fun if you like that type of comedy. I really enjoyed the role mechanic to decide if you were successful in your convincing attempts, and loved the extra strategy it brought to the game, which is not something I've seen integrated in this way before. The whole aesthetic and concept of the game is fun, quirky, and original, taking something that could be seen as an ordinary, boring job and turning it into a fun game concept where you can push the grey areas of morality and just see what happens. This is definitely a unique game, so for originality, I'm rating Debtors Club as fully caffeinated. Debtors Club is a hilarious and dark point-and-click game with the side of resource management that is a wild and fun trip down nostalgia lane. We've ground the beans, we've carefully weighed and pressed the grinds and brewed this game down. Now, it's time for a taste test. Debtors Club is buzzed. Debtors Club is available on Steam now. You can find the link in the description below. And that's where we're going to wrap up this review video. If you're looking for more indie game recommendations, click here. And until next time, stay caffeinated.